I'm Anita Bathe, and here's what we have for you today on CBC Vancouver News.
Today, I'm pleased that we're in a position to say that the restrictions with respect to social gatherings and public events will be lifted.
Lifting restrictions, what's going away and why some rules are staying put. And the feds are making moves too, easing COVID travel testing, but not necessarily making leaving the country much easier.
You know, these bureaucratic things can take a very long time, and who knows when it would have happened, right?
So what's next as a controversial Gastown statue is taken down?
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good afternoon. Well, it's a big day for BC with pandemic restrictions easing in this province and capacity limits disappearing altogether in many public places.
All of us have made sacrifices, and I believe it's that collective effort that's put us in the position today where we can relieve these restrictions and look forward to better days ahead.
So what exactly is changing? Let's start with indoor personal gatherings. Back to the pre-pandemic normal. No restrictions anymore. All indoor and outdoor organized events are back at full capacity and dancing is allowed. No limits for indoor seated events like movies and stage productions. And the same goes for gyms, adult sports, and other fitness activities. Things are going to be normal again for restaurants, bars, and nightclubs where table limits are gone and the dance floor there open too. All of this comes into effect tomorrow, 1 minute before midnight.
For some people, what we're doing today will be really fast and it will make them uncomfortable. We know as well for others it's not fast enough and they would like to see things going back to as if the virus was no longer here. But the reality is that this virus continues to circulate in our community, and because we have such a high level of immunity through immunization, for most people, that doesn't lead to serious illness or hospitalizations.
And that being said, not everything is going away. The mask mandate is staying in place if you're in a public spot. You'll still have to show your vaccine cards as well, and COVID safety plans are still required. Existing restrictions on long-term care visitations are not budging. Same goes for the guidelines affecting school for K-12 students and childcare. Faith community guidelines are also unchanged, but all of these things, well, they'll be reviewed again by the province by March 15th and April 12th. And a note for parents here as well. Children in kindergarten through grade 12 will each be given 5 rapid tests to take home, and seniors with symptoms will also be issued rapid tests for at-home use. It's expected they will make rapid tests more widely available as more kits arrive here in BC in the coming weeks. Okay, let's bring in our Justin McElroy now to look a little deeper at why the province is easing some of those restrictions and why it's not in some cases. Justin, we've heard from a lot of different provinces over the last couple of weeks. So how does BC's approach differ?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Anita, because while, as you heard from Dr. Henry, some people will think BC is moving too fast, and they are moving quite fast when it comes to capacity restrictions. In other ways, they're slower than any other province outside of Atlantic Canada right now in terms of the announcements made over the last couple 2 weeks. If you take a look at this table here, it shows how every province west of Atlantic Canada has said that their vaccine card is either eliminated or will be eliminated on either March 1st or March 14th. BC, technically it expires on June 30th. They're saying they're looking at it, but there's still no clear timeline on that. Same with mask mandates with Ontario and Quebec and keeping them for now. Other provinces have gotten rid of them or getting rid of them over the next month. So why does the province believe they still need to keep their vaccine card in place? Well, they believe that it's still an effective tool of reducing transmission, of keeping people safe and comfortable. And they're also aware that in past times when they've opened up too quickly and seen a quick surge back in cases, notably last summer with the Delta wave, they want to be a little bit more sure that transmission is down and can stay lower before fully opening up some of these things.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that because BC and provinces are making these changes while hospitalizations are still high. So why does the province think now is the time to do it?
Well, when you look at the key metrics that we can still keep track of here, and remember, because of testing limitations, we can't look at testing in quite the same way as we did before. We're seeing a lot of encouraging signs. Hospitalizations is one, down by 25%, but this is a new chart we haven't shown before, and it's wastewater concentration in Metro Vancouver treatment plants. This is used in a lot of places around the world because it shows what's going to happen in the future and a lot of times, and we can see in the 5 wastewater treatment plants down 30 to 70% since the height of the Omicron wave at the beginning of January. Now, of course, these things can change. And again, Dr. Henry did say that some people will believe that BC is moving too fast, but it's why the province feels comfortable now in removing some, but not all, of the Omicron and Delta restrictions that were put in place.
Okay, and I'm sure lots of people are going to be hitting that dance floor this weekend, Justin.
Not me.
Not you. I was just going to say, come on, I know you got the moves.
Yeah, not really my jam.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Anita.
Now, all of these provincial changes come as the federal government eases travel testing requirements for people who are vaccinated.
Fully vaccinated travelers arriving to Canada from any country in the world will only need to take a PCR COVID-19 test if they are randomly selected.
Starting February 28th, vaccinated travelers will no longer require a PCR molecular test to enter Canada and can instead take a cheaper rapid antigen test a day before traveling. It has to be administered by a lab or healthcare facility. Kids who are unvaccinated traveling with vaccinated adults will no longer have to isolate from school or daycare for 14 days. Some fully vaccinated travelers may still be selected for random testing, but they'll no longer have to quarantine while waiting those results. What's not clear, and CBC has asked for more information on this, if you do test positive while out of the country, we don't know if you still have to stay there for 10 days before testing to return home again. A man accused of killing a young Surrey woman has pleaded guilty to manslaughter. 19-year-old Kieran Dacey was found dead in a burned-out SUV in Surrey in 2017. Her ex-boyfriend, Harjot Theo, was charged with second-degree murder. Theo has also pleaded guilty to indecently interfering with or offering an indignity to human remains. His mother pleaded guilty to obstruction. His sister had been charged with an accessory after the fact, but that charge was stayed. His brother and another extended family member both faced charges of accessory after the fact and indecently interfering with human remains. Well, it's a cold case that has perplexed Vancouver investigators for 7 decades, but now a breakthrough for the historic Babes in the Woods homicides. We can now put names and faces to the 2 murdered boys whose remains were found in Stanley Park back in 1953. They are the Dalton brothers, Derek and David, believed to have been 6 and 7 years old when they were killed. Their bodies bludgeoned by a hatchet left under a thick brush for about 5 years after they died. 70 years of true crime books, reenactments, and mounting speculation later. Using DNA samples obtained from the boys' skulls last year, an American forensic research firm was able to trace their maternal grandmother. But police say the killer's identity will likely remain a mystery.
But at this stage in the investigation, it was never about seeing someone charged or arrested for these crimes. We always knew, especially through the passage of time, that was extremely unlikely. But it was always about giving these boys a name and finally telling their story.
Police believe the boys' killer was a close family member. A relative lived near the entrance to Stanley Park at the time, but they presume the murderer likely died about 25 years ago. It's unlikely their identity could ever be confirmed, not just due to the passage of time, but also the lack of remaining evidence. So what happens next now that the controversial Gassy Jack statue no longer stands in Vancouver's Gastown? Some Indigenous activists say it's been a constant reminder of violence and oppression. As Benit Braich reports, the Squamish Nation will be taking the lead on what could replace it going forward.
It's a moment of peace for Patricia Massey, the towering figure of Gassy Jack gone. The statue of John Dayton, popularly known as Gassy Jack, was taken down in front of her and other Indigenous women on Monday.
You know, I've been coming to this march for 10 years, and, you know, we're forced to kind of walk by this statue every single time, and it's, you know, it's insulting.
She calls it a symbol of dark history that has taken far too long to remove.
You know, these bureaucratic things can take a very long time, and who knows when it would have happened, right?
The Squamish Nation began working on the removal of the statue 2 years ago with the City of Vancouver.
The statue symbolized, pain and trauma and violence associated with colonization. And
the nation says being culturally safe and respectful has been a key priority for the Indigenous community and the descendants of Dayton's former wife, Madeline.
There's direct lineages to Madeline herself and the children of Gassy Jack and Madeline. But, we've been really mindful of protecting our loved ones, but also, we don't want to trigger any trauma or, be disrespectful in any way.
While it's not clear what will happen next, the Squamish Nation will take the lead, and Williams has some ideas.
So we're looking at a long-term process, what could be erected there in a strong symbolization for, hopefully it's empowering women and our girls.
Oh, I would be elated. I would walk by and I'd feel proud to take a photo in front of it with my son,
John Dayton was married to both a young Squamish woman and later her 12-year-old niece.
It's very hard to understand. No 12-year-old girl in any culture has the ability to make a decision like, I am going to marry. And so there's something not really terrific going on either side of the piece.
The details of the relationship are not clear, but the child bride ran away when she was 15. In a statement, the City of Vancouver says it acknowledges the statue as a symbol of pain and trauma. However, it says it does not condone vandalism of any kind, and the VPD say they are investigating. The city will wait for further direction from Squamish Nation, while others like Patricia Massey look forward to the change in her neighborhood. Benit Braich, CBC News, Vancouver.
The infamous Balmoral Hotel in downtown East Side is set to be demolished. Vancouver's chief building officer issued the demolition order, saying engineering reports on fire and structural risks show the building has deteriorated to the point that it poses a danger to the public and adjacent buildings. The city, which purchased the building in 2020, blames decades of underinvestment and mismanagement by the previous owners, the Sahotas. There are plans to build affordable housing units once the demolition and environmental cleanup is complete. You are looking right now at a live shot of the Pacific border crossing in Surrey. Very quiet again today, but the difference is traffic is actually moving there after a days-long anti-mandate blockade cut off access. Surrey RCMP arresting 12 people there last night and removing several vehicles. Those arrests came just hours after Justin Trudeau took the controversial step of invoking the Emergency Measures Act. That grants officers and other institutions across the country extraordinary power to end illegal protests. And Surrey RCMP say they will continue to monitor the border and the traffic headed towards it over the next several days. You can see these photos, checkpoints today, making sure drivers are indeed there to travel to the U.S. Anyone planning to cross the border is encouraged to check wait times before heading out. Time now to check in with meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe. And Joe, that live shot at the border, just a beautiful day. Sounds like that may fall into tomorrow too.
Yes, in fact, Anita, I think tomorrow is going to be our most spectacular day this week. If you're a blue sky, warm temperature fan, that's what's coming. I was sort of hoping the sun would break through a little earlier today, not ruling it out in the next couple of hours for Metro Vancouver. I know you've got it across the island. Let me take you to the current temperatures right now. The other side of our story, our temperatures very similar over the next 7 days. Afternoon highs around 7 or 8, overnight lows down around 2 or 3. Across the island, they were closer to the freezing mark, so I've seen some frost this morning. Watch for that again for places like Victoria and Nanaimo tomorrow morning. Marine cloud will move back in overnight tonight. You can see in the satellite there is still a lot of cloud across the south coast, but this high pressure is really trying hard to move inland. The clockwise flow that we get around a high means winds are coming in from the northwest. That's why we saw some drizzle and showers to start our day today, hoping for that sunshine again in the next couple of hours and then all day tomorrow. Here's a snapshot of Thursday. We see showers, if not drizzle, return. Also notice the snow moving across the interior. Just a quick look at our snowfall totals. We are getting a fair amount of snow there we go, through the next 24 hours for our mountain ranges. And just wanted to tell you about a new study coming out today for the U.S. Southwest. Speaking of lack of snow and lack of precip, it is now officially the driest past 22 years in over 1,000 years for the U.S. Southwest, using a rapid attenuation model, something we were talking about yesterday with our atmospheric river. Okay, getting back up to our sunshine across the province tomorrow. Almost everyone sharing in a bit of a high pressure. Drizzle returns for Thursday. Looks like an on again, off again forecast, bookended by rain on Saturday. That's going to be a bit of a washout, but Anita, I think we can find the sunny breaks until then and enjoy tomorrow.
I will enjoy tomorrow. Hopefully you do too.
I will.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Faced with a dug-in protest, the chief of the Ottawa Police Service has resigned. Why, behind the scenes, things were falling apart. That's next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. A sailor who set out from PEI for a winter crossing of the Atlantic has arrived home safely. Kirsten Neuschafer spent a year fixing up her boat. Brian Higgins spoke to her about her new goal, which is to race around the world.
This video gives a glimpse of what it's like crossing the Atlantic Ocean in a small sailboat. The 11-meter keelboat Minnehaha left Surrey December 1st in strong winds and landed safely in South Africa in late January. The woman who sailed it solo is Kirsten Neuschafer.
It took me 56 days to get here, and I was expecting it to take quite a bit longer. And I'm incredibly happy with the boat. I really am.
That's what holds the mast.
Neuschafer fixed up the boat last winter on PEI. Local tradespeople like carpenter Eddie Arsenault helped her, adding heavy-duty fittings and hardware, new bowsprit, tiller, and rudder. Neuschafer is a long-time sailor with years of experience in southern oceans. She's aiming to sail this boat in the 2022 Golden Globe race around the world non-stop solo. The sights on her Atlantic crossing included whales, flying fish, tropical birds, but also, she says, pollution.
Especially in the North Atlantic, there's quite a lot of plastic. You see all the sargasso seaweed floating around, but every now and again, and quite frequently actually, you'll see a big chunk of plastic or a big chunk of polystyrene or something like that.
Through it all, Neuschafer says the boat handled well, thanks in a big part to the improvements made here on Prince Edward Island. Her safe arrival in Cape Town brings her one step closer to the starting line of the Golden Globe race.
I'll be taking a lot of PEI skill, technology, craftsmanship around on this race, that's for sure. So every corner of this boat is filled with the memory of somewhere in PEI as we were doing the work, which is pretty amazing.
The Golden Globe race begins in France in September. Brian Higgins, CBC News, Charlottetown.
While protesters blocking the borders in some parts of the country are starting to leave, those who remain in front of Parliament Hill in Ottawa are digging in. And today, the city's police chief stepped down. As Olivia Stevanovic reports, it's news that at least one group is claiming as a win for their cause.
jubilation on the convoy front lines as word spreads about Peter Slowly's resignation.
I'm elated. Thank you, Lord. Hopefully it's one of many. Used to play dominoes when I was a kid. Hopefully you see some dominoes here.
While protesters claim a victory, Ottawa police scramble to find a new leader.
Frankly, the response to this crisis so far has been ineffective at bringing this occupation to an end and restoring peace and security in Ottawa. The OPS has been unable to adequately enforce our laws, and our residents continue to be terrorized
as they wait for officers to move in.
It's been frustrating. I am looking forward to see some policing action.
We need somebody there to take control of the whole thing and finish that.
Despite the Emergencies Act taking effect yesterday, protesters remain on the street in front of Parliament Hill, and there's little sign of stepped-up enforcement today.
There will be consequences for people who are breaking the law and people who are supporting those who are breaking the law.
Blockades have cleared at border crossings in Alberta and Windsor, but the situation in the nation's capital remains in deadlock.
Isn't it true that the Prime Minister's actions could serve to actually make things worse and not make things better?
Exactly. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is about keeping Canadians safe.
The federal government calls the scope of its new measures time-limited, geographically targeted, and urgently needed.
What is driving this movement is a very small, organized group that is driven by an ideology to overthrow the government through whatever means they may wish to use.
Kids are playing street hockey, people dancing on the street, and there is an emergency. For that, come on.
But despite the threat for those who stay of having their corporate accounts frozen and vehicle insurance suspended, demonstrators vow to continue holding the line. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Prince Andrew has settled a civil lawsuit with Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused him of sexually abusing her when she was 17. According to court documents, lawyers on both sides say a tentative settlement has been reached and a dismissal of the case will be requested within a month. No financial details around the settlement have been disclosed. The tentative deal says the prince will make a substantial donation to Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. Well, what does it mean to feed one's soul? We touch base with the artists behind a new exhibit in Richmond on what nourishment means to them. Next.
This is the night Canada has been waiting for. Since 1976, really. A Canadian gold medal during a Canadian Olympics. Yes, finally, gold. Chris Brown joins us now. Chris.
Well, Peter, of course, there's been so much to complain about in terms of Cypress Mountain, the lack of snow and the lousy weather, but tonight it was all golden for Canada. It took 3 Olympics, but on a picture-perfect night on Cypress Mountain, Alex Bilodeau won Canada's first ever Olympic gold medal on Canadian soil. The mogul skier from Rosemère, Quebec skied second to last and nailed his routine. On Vancouver's streets, the crowd went wild.
I was so happy to be here. Canada's first gold medal. I'm pumped. Way to go, Canada! Woo!
Canadians have been going for so long, and it's just so good to just see them nail it.
Lots more of these to come, but at least we got it behind us. Let's do it.
It capped an outstanding day for Canada. Mid-afternoon, thousands gathered around giant outdoor TV screens to see a thrilling finish in speed skating and a bronze medal for Christina Groves of Ottawa. Minutes afterwards, her overjoyed parents were still going through the play-by-play.
She was third, and there were 2 more skaters, and that's the most... Well, I wasn't able to watch, actually. I was sort of hiding behind something. and realizing then, of course, hey, she did it. Wow, it's incredible.
The chips fell in the right place, and so we're just so happy for her.
Canada's other medal, a silver, came in the rain on Cypress Mountain last night for mogul specialist Jennifer Heil.
There's no doubt about it. I
I had gold in my sights. It was what I was thinking about every day for the last 4 years, what I was working so hard for, what my team was working so hard for. But I do really feel like I won silver.
Today, another piece of Canada's plan for Olympic dominance started coming together as members of the men's hockey team began arriving at Vancouver's airport.
Obviously, when I got on that flight this morning, chill started to set in, and I just got really excited to be here.
Earlier today, there was a bit of a scare involving Sidney Crosby. In a game against Nashville, the Penguins forward was struck by a puck on his shin and had to leave the game. He later came back and scored. The team has but a single practice together tomorrow before Tuesday's game against Norway.
It'll do. We've all played at different times together. I think the summer camp was definitely a positive.
The celebrations over today's medal success are already well underway. I'm here at Richmond at Canada's Speed Skating House, where they were already celebrating that bronze. And now, of course, there's also that gold medal to savor. Peter.
All right, Chris, thanks very much. Chris Brown down in Vancouver tonight.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. Celebrate International Women's Day with Michelle Elliott at West Coast Leaf's Breakfast for Dinner, a virtual event on March 8th that supports an equal and just society for women and people who experience gender-based discrimination. Get your tickets at westcoastleaf.org and get Metro Vancouver news that matters to you wherever you are with the free CBC News app. Download it today and stay connected to where you live.
A new exhibit has opened up at the Richmond Art Gallery. It examines how food and nature affect our physical and mental well-being. The artists spoke with our Steve Jang on their creative process. Take a look.
Roger Chen and Wan Yi Lin, who formed the artist duo Mizonk, are showcasing a new work called 6 Acres, in homage to a plot of land they relocated to in the months after the events of 9/11. Lin painted the watercolor images, and Chen took still pictures of her paintings and helped her turn them into animations. While Lin says painting was a foreign medium to her, she enjoyed the process and learning more about herself.
For me personally, I need to make stuff. So I think painting was, at the time, it was one medium that I explore, and that it was really through that medium we both started to realize how much this place has influenced us.
The duo says the intention with their work was to capture the essence of how nature can be a soothing balm for the soul in troubled times.
When you step in nature, just the air that you breathe, the fresh air, it just physically wakes you up. You feel refreshed, and then mentally is what's gonna follow, is that you also feel refreshed too.
Chen says he loves the idea of self-discovery through art, adding that it's a pure and honest avenue for self-expression.
Yeah, I tend to see things with my eyes, and she tends to see things with her heart. And you can see how that type of combination is interesting, Sometimes we have conflict because of that, but then it's also because of that I think our work speaks, because of this balance in.
Mizonk says they wanted to capture the comfort nature brought them, to speak through art the experiences they have living with nature.
When you're in nature, it's very easy for you to feel you're part of something much bigger. And I think just that itself is probably, it's really good for somebody to feel that, you feel you are just as important as every other thing on this planet. And there's something comforting about that.
6 Acres is part of an exhibition called Nourish and will be featured at the Richmond Art Gallery until April 3rd. Steve Jang, CBC News, Richmond.
Time now to bring you a beauty pageant like no other in Libya. The North African country has held its first ever competition for chickens. Contestants strutted their stuff for top spot in the pecking order. The aim, to find the best-looking chicken from each breed, and criteria was strict. Birds were judged by color, shape, and shine on their feathers, as well as size. The bird who took home the crown took top prize for its bright yellow color and hefty size. The contest was held in hopes of inspiring young people to get involved in positive activities. A little outdated for sure. I mean, a beauty pageant, perhaps a prize for smartest or most intelligent chicken. Thanks for watching today. A reminder, CBC Vancouver News is on at 3 p.m. during the Olympics on television. You can also watch our newscast on demand on our website, YouTube, or Facebook. Have a great rest of your day.